let's talk about something we all kind of take for granted, our eyesight. I mean, it's just there, right? But what happens when it's threatened? Today, we're going to dig into that with a story that, honestly, puts the real-world stakes into painfully sharp focus. So get this. There's a story about a carpenter who goes to his insurance company. A nail he was hammering flew up and shattered his glass eye. I mean, what a pain, right? Super frustrating. But that's not the real story here. The part that'll really get you is the question that came next. The insurance agent is probably just going through the motions, filling out the paperwork, and he asks a really simple question. So, how did you lose your actual eye? You can just imagine the silence hanging in the air for a second before he answered. His answer? The same way. He didn't learn his lesson the first time, and now he's looking at a world of complete darkness. It's an absolutely tragic story, and honestly, it's the perfect, sobering place for us to start this conversation. Look, this isn't just some cautionary tale about one carpenter. Nope, this is about a choice. It's a choice that every single one of us faces, whether we're on a massive construction site, in a workshop, or even just doing a little project at home. So it really boils down to a pretty simple question, doesn't it? Which one would you rather get used to? The slight annoyance of wearing some eye protection? Or getting used to a glass eye? When you put it like that, the choice becomes crystal clear. And what's wild is that this is not a new problem. Not by a long shot. We've had eye protection in the construction industry since 1910. For more than 100 years, we've known how to prevent these kinds of injuries. So the problem has never, ever been about the technology. It's always been about just using it. So, to make that right choice, you've got to know exactly what you're up against. What are you even protecting your eyes from? It's not just one thing. So, let's break down the 4 basic types of hazards you're likely to face out there. We can really group these dangers into 4 main buckets. You've got your unidentified flying objects, high-speed particles, invisible hazards, and of course, hazardous liquids. Once you get these 4, picking the right gear gets a whole lot easier. Let's dive into the first one. First up, unidentified flying objects. And no, we're not talking about aliens here. We're talking about something way more common, and maybe even more dangerous. This is the dust that gets kicked up by the wind, the little particles you generate when you're cleaning up. Even a tiny speck that seems like nothing can scratch your cornea and cause some really serious issues down the road. Okay, next we level up from just floating dust to actual projectiles. Think about it. When you're chipping, grinding, or using a saw, those tiny bits of metal or wood, they aren't just floating. They're flying at incredible speeds. In fact, they can hit your eye with the force of a bullet. Just let that sink in for a second. You wouldn't stare down the barrel of a gun without protection, right? So why would you face a grinder without it? And then you have the hazards you literally can't see coming. This is the sneaky stuff, like the intense light rays from welding or from lasers. What's so dangerous about these is that you often don't feel a thing. The damage is being done, but you won't know it until hours later when the pain kicks in. And by then, it's too late. And finally, there are hazardous liquids. We're talking hot tar, solvents, paint, nasty cleaning acids. Anytime you're pouring or using these things, one little splash can be absolutely devastating. And unlike those invisible hazards, the damage here is usually immediate and it is severe. Okay, so we've met the enemies. We know what's out there. The good news? The solution is right in front of us. And it's actually pretty simple. It just takes a tiny bit of effort and thinking ahead. Depending on what you're doing, you've got a whole arsenal of protection. You've got your basic safety glasses, sealed goggles for dust and splashes, eye shields, even full face masks. And here's a pro tip. Sometimes you need to double up. If you're doing overhead work or dealing with really nasty liquids, wearing goggles under a face shield is the only way to go. Now listen, this is probably the most critical part. It is not enough to just grab any old pair of safety glasses and call it a day. You have to match the protection to the hazard. Are you dealing with dust, splashes, high-speed impacts? Answering that question before you start the work, that is the single most important step you can possibly take. And that brings us right to the end, to the final crucial point. Everything we've talked about, the dangers, the gear, the consequences, it all comes down to a single moment, a fraction of a second that can change your life forever. An eye injury doesn't give you a heads up. It doesn't send a warning text. It happens in an instant. One moment you're working, the next, well, potentially it's instant darkness. That's the reality. That's what's on the line. So I'm just going to leave you with this question. In that tiny moment of decision, that split second before you flick on the power saw or start to pour that chemical, what are you going to choose? Because your sight is on the line. Please make the right choice.